Washoe County Library System welcomes you to a wonderful history series that delves into fascinating Nevada topics with local experts. The Nevada Historical Society presents High Noon with Neal Cobb. Today we have a very special program, the historic Sutro Tunnels, past, present, and future, live from the Sutro Tunnel Historic Site. Here today, representing the Friends of the Sutro Tunnel organization, we have Nathan Tobey. And now it is my pleasure to introduce Sherry Hayes Zorn.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We will always want to thank the Washoe County Library System. They're such an amazing partner to help us make these high noon programs live by Zoom and Facebook, and then being able to record them, and anybody could watch them at any time. So we really appreciate this partnership. So of course, thank you so much for coming today and joining us for our monthly series, and keep an eye out. We've got some great speakers scheduled all the way through February, and we're starting to work on the next grouping. So check our website out. But without further ado, let me introduce our host, Neal Cobb, our honorarian curator and historian who has supported the Historical Society for many years, and we so appreciate his support. And this is just a great program that I've worked with Neal for many years. So without further ado, let me introduce Neal Cobb. Hey, Neal.
Hi, Sharon. Thanks for the intro. It is my pleasure today to be able to introduce the project manager for the Sutro Tunnel. His name is Nathan Tobey, and we welcome him to High Noon at this time.
Hello, thanks Neal and everybody else. I really appreciate letting me come on on your show today. Really fantastic, and love to talk about the Sutro Tunnel and that's happened here as far as the the building of the tunnel. And I think it's just a great story of the American West, about Adolph Sutro a little bit. He was born in then Prussia in the 1840s, and I'm sorry, that's wrong. But, he came to America in 1840, and he came to Baltimore and then moved out west to San Francisco, and then made his way up to the Comstock. He was not an engineer or miner or anything, but he did have a pretty good grip on how things worked and how to solve problems. He was a very smart fellow. So he saw that they were pumping water and pulling water out of the mines with buckets. He saw an opportunity to solve that problem through creating this tunnel. And so that was his objective. And he unfortunately was kind of stopped in a lot of the ways that he wanted to do it. So, and of course that was with the Bank of California, which had a monopoly on the mines, and they were at first very supportive of Sutro and wanted to help him out and thought, this will work out great for us, for bringing ore out, obviously during. But then they started to use Sutro as competition, and this was around 1860 when he was up here trying to do that. And so, by 1865, he was, going around really trying hard. He went to Congress, he went to Europe, he went all over the place to try to get funding for it and to get it going, but a lot of resistance from the Bank of California. And so then it was kind of unfortunate, but there was a big fire in the Yellow Jacket mine in 1869 in April, and he would have been able, and a lot of people died in the fire, and it was really a huge tragedy. A bunch of miners got killed, so they had no way to escape except out the top. So using that as leverage, he said, I could have saved a lot of lives. This would have been a great thing if they had another exit point from just the one. And so that really got local support behind him, and he was able to raise more money, and Congress backed him finally, got him a little money to get started. And on October 19th, 1869, he got started, and he had 9 miners working on the tunnel at first, three men in a shift round the clock. And so he, took out an ad in the paper, or had a story written about it that the Sutro Tunnel was underway, and they had men working around the clock, which was true, but it wasn't very many men. So slowly, there's a lot of resistance still from the Bank of California. Over the next 9 years, they finally got the tunnel connected to the Savage Mine. And then people started to realize the value of being able to drain the water out. And so they quickly then dug 2 side shafts, connecting, I believe it was 24 mines altogether again. And they did that much faster than the actual tunnel construction. And during that time, he had sold a bunch of stock to raise money to build the mine. It was, kind of a good deal for him, but he also recognized by the time that they'd gotten there, it was almost too late. They had kind of gotten past the level where the tunnel came in, which was still, 1,640 feet roughly below the surface of the Savage Mine. And the silver was getting to be of less quality. The ore wasn't as good. And so Sutro kind of saw the writing on the wall. And he decided that he would be, best served by, maybe quickly selling off the shares that which he had in the Sutro Tunnel and leaving. But that's the very short version. He went to San Francisco and became mayor. It was widely popular, but also regarded as kind of a poor mayor, just the populace, and the people loved him, but he wasn't really good at being a politician or running a city so much. I guess it'd be good to talk about the tunnel itself. It's about 3.88 miles long from the beginning to the end. And it goes at roughly a 1% grade. And that's so that the water will drain properly. And as it was, under operation, they were draining more than 3 million gallons a day from the various mines. And so that was a great thing. A huge service to the mines, and they all saw the value in it. And he was charging roughly $10,000 a day for this service, which even today is a lot, and I'm sure in those days it was even more valuable. And that was a great operation. And then also being able to bring things in and through the tunnel up to the mines through the elevator there in the Savage Mine. It's very helpful for everybody. But then then the tunnel operated until roughly 1940. When World War II was getting started, and then it kind of shut down. It's not an essential industry. And then after that, the property kind of changed hands and was mostly just kind of in decay at that point. Till about the 1960s, when there was actually a saloon out here, which was the Sutro Saloon, and a lot of locals would come out here. It was sort of, out in the middle of nowhere in those days. And Dayton is still not really this giant metropolis, but there was, a little town, and there was plenty of ranchers and farmers in the area that, liked to get together. So they would come to the Sutro Saloon, and it was also kind of a secret spot of the UNR students. They would come out here, show their friends this cool place out in the middle of nowhere, secret roadhouse. And they'd, unfortunately, because of that going on, they had a light on top of the mill building, which is connected to the tunnel with a little track where they would process the tailings and the ore coming out of the tunnel. And they had a little red light up on top of that, which, due to faulty electrician work and knob and tube wiring, it burned the mill down. And that was an unfortunate thing. But still, the saloon went on, and a lot of the old timers around here and the locals remember fondly hanging around out here. Stoney Tennant, who was the main bartender, was still kind of a a larger than life figure in the area. Another person who lived out here in that era was Greg Melton, who was a local artist and um, just a great guy in general. And when they decided that they wanted to build a statue of Adolph Sutro to put in front of the Capitol to recognize all of his work, then he was the one who actually ended up doing the casting of the statue, which is in the Capitol, out in front of the Capitol building now in Carson City. And they actually scavenged the bronze to cast it with stuff they found down in the town of Sutro. And we've got a little model of it in our shop. I think it's just one of those nice little historic tie-ins that this, person that lived 100 years before and who had been, building this tunnel out here was then, recognized with this large statue of him built with, basically junk, which was found on the side of the town, which they had built down below the tunnel. Neal, would you like to ask any questions or get any more details about anything now?
Hey, Nate, this is Sherry.
Hey,
Um,
Shay.
Hello. So can you talk about what exactly, um, when did the foundation, was that created?
That was created about, I guess I can just tie right into that. So the Friends of the Sutro Tunnel was founded or really consolidated about 3 years ago, I guess.
Okay.
It's been a thing for longer than that. There's been, and going back even to the 60s when the saloon was here and the artists and the other folks that were living out here in the various buildings, there's been kind of a really passionate group of people that were dedicated to preserving the buildings and the site and the tunnel itself and keeping it, kind of preserved as it was. And that was kind of an extension of that would be the Sutro Tunnel. And it's really a great group of people that came together to do this. And they wanted to, really showcase it and make it into a nice destination and a place you could come and visit and see the history, kind of as it was. And luckily, there was the land was donated by John Serpa, and they had bought the land to develop some of the land down below, and then decided this would be a great thing to for the community to donate this space, and that really kicked off the nonprofit at that point because then it was the Friends of the Sutro Tunnel formed the 501c3 and started really working on the site. And it's amazing how much work has been done here based on the pictures that we have of what it looked like before and what it looks like now. It's really an amazing transformation. And the local, like the Eclampus Vitus, various groups of them have been heavily involved. Lots of local volunteers and other interested parties in the area have all really chipped in a lot and been very generous with their time and their resources to help us do all this work and to start restoring the tunnel. We did 50 feet in 2023, and that was a pretty big endeavor to get. We have Simerson Construction is the ones building the reconstructed part of the tunnel now, and they are doing it for the Friends of the Sutro Tunnel at cost, which is very cool. And is not only is it a good fun project for them, I believe, but also it's a great deal for us because the way that they're building it is based on Sutro's original plan with these like an open kind of thing with no central supports and just this open sort of look going down the tunnel. But the timbers and the beams that are supporting everything, all the bracing, is not really a standard size. And so they actually made a sawmill and bought some property to start milling lumber for this project specifically. And so it's been really cool to see the process of rebuilding it. And now we've gotten about 100 feet done. And it's just a great thing to see the interest of various companies that want to help out and build it.
That's amazing. You you talked about you know, from the 60s, and you know, there was artist community, and there was the bar. Didn't Sutro, was his home the school, or I'm trying to remember here, and that burned down in the 60s,
Oh yes,
70s.
well, so in the 1940s, then so he built his wife. His wife was not really excited about moving out here from San Francisco. She kind of liked, technology and living in a normal place. So she agreed to move here if he would build her a fancy house. So they built this little mansion up above the tunnel itself, which for its time was very, very elaborate and very fancy. Hot water, running water, things like that, and gas lighting, and 3 stories tall. It was really nice, but they also had to. They drove a bunch of gears into the ground, basically with cables, keep it from away because it did get windy out here, and that burned down in the 1940s because it was a very cool site there. And then right down below, there was a whole town. Adolph Sutro was very civic minded, I suppose, and so when there was a place for the workers and their families to live down below the tunnel, which is now being basically covered up by new houses and new roads and stuff. But if you bought a lot down there, you had to buy trees as well. And he actually had imported some trees to make that possible and make sure that he had a nice little city going down there. And that's, interestingly enough, kind of what's going on again. I don't know if there's laws about having trees, but you do have homeowners associations that insist on certain things in that neighborhood. So it's becoming a little town once again. And kind of a fun story about the mansion in Mrs. Sutro was Ulysses S. Grant came out on a world tour, basically post presidency, and wanted to come to the Comstock to find out about where the silver came from, and just the whole to learn about the area. And so he showed up at the Sutro Tunnel to be entertained by Adolph Sutro and Mrs. Sutro. Adolph was nowhere to be seen. Mrs. Sutro found out that he was up in Virginia City, and so she went up there and found him at the bar with another woman, who she then attacked with a champagne bottle or a wine bottle, sort of viciously. Sutro not to come back to the house and that she would entertain the president. So she returned, entertained Ulysses S. The next day, he went through the tunnel and up through the Savage Mine to the elevator and got to Virginia City and said that it was one of the worst experiences of his life. And so that's from someone who survived the Civil War. And that really kind of drives home the point of how hot it was down there in those deep mines and how much the humidity, and also probably wearing a wool suit, just an unpleasant experience all around. But it definitely showcases, how difficult the work was down there and how strenuous and how hard it was for the workers in the mines and the tunnels to do anything down.
That's fascinating. I hadn't
Isn't that kind
realized.
of
I
a
mean,
fun story?
yeah, I mean, we have, of course, most people have seen, and I know we have in our collection Ulysses S. Grant's party, posing in Virginia City, and we have some of the plans for the town of Sutro, the layout, that included, aisles between the streets and trees proposed. So can you tell me, with the town that no longer exists, but the land is being reused, is the cemetery still there?
No, unfortunately, there is very little left of the town. It's been, I imagine, over the years being abandoned for the most part, and then with the passage of time, how things are. People take things or put them, take them home and put them in their yard. There's not really much left of the town of Sutro. And now developed, cleared. There's really nothing left at all down there. And someone
Oh, okay.
renting stuff, but it's really unfortunate because it was a nice little town. There was a little pond down there, and um, for just aesthetics, it was kind of a nice setup. And I guess we could talk about the water that is still coming out of the tunnel.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and it's really kind of cool. It's currently with the new construction, what we've done is because for years the water was just kind of coming out, post, the World War II, then everything was kind of in disrepair. So the water coming out of the tunnel was basically just like a little creek. And the people that were living here would kind of divert it here and there for irrigation or what have you. And they also had a swimming pool that they would fill up with the water out of the tunnel. But mostly, and this is something they built at this time as well, which they used the water to their mills and the machinery here on site, is there's a nice, about a pond which we have, which is about 18 feet. It's tree lined and it's beautiful. But at the time, I imagine it was larger because there was a lot more. There's 3 million gallons of water coming out a day coming out of the tunnel. And so they had a lot excess water for providing the town with irrigation water, powering things, and whatnot. And then also the engineer that did the Virginia City water system from Marlette Lake to Virginia City, the same head engineer for the Sutro Tunnel. And I thought it was very interesting that you have the same person working on bringing water to a place where there isn't enough, which is the same place where there's too much water, and getting rid of it to somewhere else. And so I guess it's about where it is. And also it's very minerally too. There's a lot of dissolved solids in the water coming out of the tunnel because there was quite a bit of geothermal activity in there that they were encountering with the hot water and things like that in the mines. And so that was actually where they were getting hot water for the mansion, was coming out of the tunnel in a separate pipe going to the mansion. And
Oh, that's fascinating.
it's pretty cool. And we're still gallons per minute coming out of the mine or out of the tunnel. My mistake there. And humidity is much less. Also added a ventilation fan for the first 100 feet that we've restored, which has also really helped with humidity inside there, because when it was in operation, they had to replace the wood timbers every 3 years or more often because of the water, because
Oh, no, that's interesting.
Yeah, and I would imagine that you build it and it just kind of stays like that indefinitely, but instead there was like a constant effort to maintain it and repairing things. And inside itself, they actually had shops to go into. Long, way back out if you need something.
Okay.
Kind of excited. We hope to get back far enough to find some of these and these other rooms that are inside the tunnel there and underground. Would be very
So your picture has kind of disappeared. I know I saw you walking with your phone. Were you going to the actual tunnel itself? So I see a little light here and there.
okay. Yeah, I was gonna head over there. I thought I had my video off. Is that coming from the computer? Can you see me coming back now? Is that
Oh, I see you coming back. I see your pant pocket, I think.
okay? Let me try.
I was just curious whether or not, because we
I thought
were
I had my
showing us
video
some.
turned off on that one.
Oh, no.
Let me see here if I can't share my screen with my other
Okay.
connection. I thought I was still logged on here.
And so, yes, that's the one thing Nathan is doing is actually broadcasting this live right at the Sutro Tunnel area. And so we've been having to play, so he's essentially talking with his phone, but he has his laptop and has some slides to show as well. So that's the reason why there's some connection issues, but it's still pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm really sorry about that. We thought this was going to work out good. But
You just
the
never know.
Starlink is a little fickle, I would say, perhaps. With, so can you see that picture there?
Yes, we see
So
Sutro himself.
There he is. That's the man himself, and that's a picture from our museum. In the machine shop here, we have a replica building of the original machine shop, which is roughly a quarter of the size of the original building. And it was, actually, if you can see with this, I can show you around with this with my phone. There's the machine shop right there.
Oh, how cute. When was it built?
It was built in the 1970s. Little statue that I was talking about earlier. It's in our machine shop. Can you see that one?
Yes.
Okay. And that's kind of neat.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it's a cool little statue there, and that's the proof of concept. And we have one, and the other one is up at the Fourth Ward School. So that's kind of neat.
Hey, we do have a question, Nathan. Can you tell us how large the statue is? Do you have an idea? Nathan might be disconnected briefly. So
I'm back on. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yes, I can hear you now. Did you hear the question?
Yes. No, it's about the main statue is about 18 feet tall.
Okay.
And it's this one is about a foot tall.
Oh, it's only like a foot tall?
Yeah, the one that we have is just a little proof. It's just kind of, the artist proof of concept that it works, or that, what it would look like. That's just
that's a great image. And isn't that based on the historic photo, him posing at the time when he was trying to get people to buy stock?
Yes, and that photo was taken in England, I believe, or Germany. It was not taken here on site. It looks like it was, but you can see he's wearing these like kind of fancy dress shoes in the picture. It's kind of funny because and again, like just such a, willing to go to these extreme lengths to go and, go overseas to get funding, to get all this stuff to make it happen. It's just kind of cool. And then of course pose with his pick like he's, just getting started on the tunnel. It's pretty neat.
Yeah, I mean, somebody asked us, is it a PR scam? I don't know if it's a PR scam, but getting people excited, and like you said, he did go to Europe as well to try to get backing and basing some of his thoughts and plans too, correct?
Absolutely. And I mean, going to Europe more than once, going to Washington, it took an act of Congress to make this happen. So it was pretty much a big deal. And then to actually be able to tunnel all that way is pretty impressive. And I guess technically it's not a tunnel, because a tunnel has, it goes somewhere and goes out the other side. This doesn't actually go out. So it's technically an attic, which is just a horizontal mine shaft, basically. So,
yeah. I didn't really think about that. Okay.
No, that I learned that yesterday. And so that was
okay.
Something new.
Absolutely. You had some other pictures that I thought were pretty neat as well.
So if you were to come visit us, this building here is the carriage house, and it's where you would, leave your
What'd you call it again? I'm sorry.
I think he called it a carriage house.
Okay, I thought carriage, but then I was like, I wasn't sure if I heard that correctly. So,
We'll see when we get him back on.
and oh, there's the model of what the house looked like, Sutro's mansion. Oh, that's pretty cool. Well, and another thing too, for people that don't know, the Historical Society has a decent collection of materials. I think it's some of the letter books that have correspondence and other information. And so I know that in the past we've had friends and volunteers of Sutro come up here to the Historical Society to do research and go through the newspapers that were part that promoted what was happening in the town of Sutro and with the Sutro Tunnel. So there's a lot of great people who've done a lot. So Nathan, can't hear you, but this barn, can you tell us what it is exactly? Neal, do you know what that barn was? Oh, oh, okay. Oh, so these are then the ponds that Nathan was talking about where the excess water flowed into.
Any of
Okay.
the horses and the rest of the livestock that they would have used one way or another, that's where they would have been kept and out of the weather and
Oh, okay.
yeah, wagons and the rest of the stuff bringing up materials.
Oh, okay. So now Nathan had mentioned that, there's a lot of mineral, this hot water that's coming out of the pipes. They used it for, bathing, powering things and for irrigation. Would
You hear me?
animals? Oh, we can. Yay. I was gonna say, would the animals have drank this water, or would it have been too hard for the animals with it being very minerally?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hey, I got dropped on the phone and I'm back on the computer, so hopefully it doesn't also drop me.
Okay.
So maybe we can check out some more of these pictures. But you can see how much water is coming out. It's a pretty good amount of water.
Yeah, absolutely. And these are the ponds you were talking about, correct?
These are the ones that were, always here. And
So would they have used this water also for the animals?
probably, and
Okay.
also for the they had some crops that they were raising down below. They had some farming going on, so they were probably using it for
Okay.
that.
Okay.
Probably not drinking it too much. I imagine it was a little tangy, but
Maybe they could have boiled it. I'm not sure, but
yeah,
that
possibly.
like you said, how much water came out a day?
Be somewhere between 3 to 5 million gallons a day in a 24-hour period.
That's a lot of water.
It's a
So
ton of.
so there's only so much that could be done. Where did I mean, I imagine there still was overflow.
Yeah, and
Where did the rest of the water go?
so it would just go if they had a Pelton wheel that they were using, so they were running the water out of the little reservoir, the pond, turn the wheel, and then it would just kind of go down and eventually, probably get to the Carson River. And perhaps they were using it in the town as well.
Okay.
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 Okay, here we've got a video. This is going to show you what it's looking like now.
Oh, wow.
This is all the restoration work that we've done, and you can see the original timbers or the new timbers matching.
Wow.
So I filmed that this morning.
Oh my gosh. That's amazing. And you said you guys are now at 100 feet?
Yep, and probably a little farther with where I stopped here.
Okay. So so that we're at the end of that video, it showed, or the ceiling and the supports drop. So that would be the next area you would start cleaning up to start building up the supports.
That's correct. And that's the process, is tearing out. So these timbers that you can see here, those are not original to the tunnel. Those were from the 70s and 80s when Houston Oil and Mineral came, and they wanted to do some exploration to see if there was more silver or gold that hadn't been found.
Oh,
And
okay.
they did that. And a lot of these timbers were actually made out of cottonwood from trees that they cut down on site.
Yeah.
It did not
And
last.
no, it's a soft wood, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And it's not very strong. It's just kind of, cottonwood trees are always losing their branches and falling on your car or something. And so that's kind of where they're at. But you can see, that there's rocks and things like that have fallen down into
Yeah.
the space.
It's very impressive. So you had mentioned that the timber, the boards that helped create the supports were a larger than the average that would be today. I think that's true for a lot of the earlier timbers that were cut from the Sierras. It was a wider board, they made wider boards, if I remember.
Yes. And so there's here's the original plans. You can see the size of the stuff that aren't really called out here. But you can see there the lower channel, you can see the cross section of the tracks here and here. And down below this is where the water would come out.
Oh, okay.
So it was inside of this trough. And again, that's why they had to replace the wood all the time, I suppose, because it was
It would rot.
Yeah, it was in constant contact with the water. So
well, and so then there essentially were two tracks, it looks like. So people go in and the other track would be going out, correct?
Yeah. Yes, that's exactly.
Okay. Wow.
And then let's see, I've got
so there was the barn, the red barn. And Neal was saying it was probably where the animals and a lot of the equipment was stored. Is that correct?
Okay, so this one right here.
Yeah.
Yes, that's the mule barn.
Oh, the mule barn. Okay.
And so the mules all lived in there, and but there was also mules that kind of stayed underground a lot of the time and didn't come out.
Yes, absolutely. And I can't remember, there was a mule, the last one that came out. I think she has a grave in Virginia City where she was buried.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Oh, that's very interesting. Because they would actually then care for the animals and almost have kind of like stalls and feed for the animals that remained underground.
Wow. And the ones that did come out, there's a little shack right next to the. See, I have a picture of it. So this building right here, with the little bricked-in window, that was the candle. And that is where they kept the lanterns and things like that they actually hung on the mules. So you could see. And so when you came out, then they had kids that worked in there, and they would, take the lanterns off the mules. And then there's some little shelves right here where they kept the fresh lanterns. And then right over here, kind of up here where my mouse is, was an ice house. And that was mostly underground. And they would, bring ice down from like Donner Lake or up in the Sierras, and they'd actually flood. They may have used the water from the tunnel. They'd kind of flood the flatlands around here during the winter and would freeze, and they'd put it in the ice house. But so when the mules would come out, they'd rub them down with ice and, give them a little snack, and then take their lanterns off and take them over to the barn.
Oh, no, that's interesting. So did they like it up, in the depths where the miners, in Virginia City, they would have cooling stations, so to speak, where there would be ice in the rooms, so the miners could cool down. Is that the same thing that would have essentially been for the miners that would be going through the tunnel as well as, like you said, the animals?
I would imagine so. I think that it was
Okay.
so unpleasant. I mean, they had what temperatures of about 130, 135 degrees back in
Right.
there. The humidity, it was pretty miserable. So I assume that they probably had some ice rooms and some cooling rooms for them as well.
Yeah. Well, and at least what I've read or heard before is that they kind of would work in 15-minute or
Mhm.
30-minute shifts. So
Yep.
then they could go into the rooms to cool down, take a break, and then go back to work. So so do you think along the route in the Sutro Tunnel, they would have those kind of cooling spaces as well?
I would assume so. I think that
Yeah.
would be something you would want to have. And
Yeah.
one issue they encountered is because as they were going to speed up the process, they attempted to put in 4 vertical shafts to hit the tunnel along the way. The first one worked really well, so they got down to the right elevation and they could dig back toward the entrance and towards the mines. The second one, they hit a bunch of water, and it actually filled up the tunnel with water while they're not the tunnel, but the shaft. And so then they were worried when they got close that they were going to get flooded out when they hit that other shaft. But they were able to pump the water out and kind of keep the level low enough. So it worked out when they hit that ventilation shaft. But the third and
Okay.
fourth shafts never got deep enough to be used.
Oh,
They had already
okay.
passed them by before they got there. So there was no reason to even have them at that point.
Okay. Well, and um, I know that a couple of your volunteers have done some research to map where the ventilation shafts were on
Mhm.
the property, correct?
Well, they were on the original Sutro property because he was granted, I believe, 1,000 feet on each side of the tunnel in a straight line through Virginia City, and then even past Virginia City into Washoe Valley, which I'm not sure if there was some talk about going farther at some point or,
Oh, okay.
um, but that was the original property line. Our property line ends just past the portal there, just past the facade.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and in fact, we have BLM property is like right above there, so it's not really ours. It's the tunnel is ours, but above it is not.
Okay. So would it be if you wanted to continue to clean up and uh, use the tunnel? Is it kind of like, mining that you have to submit to get like a claim, so to speak, to be able to make it working again, to get permission?
It's kind of an interesting gray
Or how
area,
does that work?
um,
Okay.
because we're not mining. We're not
No.
necessarily under like that those jurisdictions. We're just it's just a tunnel
Okay.
basically. But we still like the people that are working on this. They are MSHA certified to be in confined spaces like that
Yeah.
because we feel like it's important to be safe.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
if I go back, so we'll go back to the video again, you can see um, um, when we get back towards the end here, um,
Mhm.
you can see this metal structure down here.
Yeah.
So that was built by Simerson Construction. We call it the Turtle. And that's a big steel structure which just barely fits inside the tunnel. And so it's covered, and so they can clear the debris out safely while being underneath that. And then they can
Oh,
a 5-foot section of the new timber, and then they take a piece of equipment, move the turtle a little bit, clean out some more stuff, add some more timbers, and just keep repeating it. But you can see how much stuff there is down in the tunnel. There's a
yeah.
ton of debris and junk and stuff that needs to be cleared out.
Mhm.
It's a pretty slow
So
process.
I would think so. I was wondering when you showed the video, I was wondering what that was. And then the pipe that's at the top of the ceiling, is that part of that frame system, or is it to also help with ventilation?
That's for ventilation, and we installed that just a couple weeks ago. And the caretaker, Spencer, and I, we put that in, and we got the fan was donated to us. It was very nice generation. In fact, all that stuff was donated. All the materials, the duct came from Ferguson. Very cool. It's like the local construction supply businesses and various builders are all very, very generous, giving us gravel, giving us pipe, giving us the duct. And so, but we made a huge difference in there because the bottom of the turtle, the steel, was just soaked. It was dripping, lots of condensation coming off of that. The wood was getting kind of moldy, especially at the back. And once we got the fan hooked up to the ducting and started blowing it out the top of the tunnel, you can see at the beginning here, let's see, show it. This box here, that's where the fan is, and it blows up off. And so we kind of hid it inside a little wood box there, but it made a drastic difference. The wood's all dry. There's no more condensation on the turtle, and it's just a whole lot more pleasant inside there. So.
Well, and it looks like towards the bottom of the beams in the gravel that there's not a lot of moisture, but you can see little bits of moisture.
Yeah, and that could be some of that is probably from the rain last night. It rained kind of a lot, but it's pretty dry in there. And it's not
it looks dry.
It's very pleasant, and it's a nice people. It's fun when you walk in. I really like how aesthetically, when you come into the tunnel and it's like there's nothing in your way, like you could just keep walking into there the way we fenced it off. So it's just kind of a neat aesthetic, I think.
Oh, it is. So you guys essentially been having to deal with mold until you got that ventilation system essentially put in, correct?
Exactly. So now that's not a problem. And
wow,
it's funny because the way that the tunnel is, the roof up here, the ceiling is higher than the entrance, and so the hot air up at the top really was just kind of stopped at the the facade and could nowhere to go. So when we cut through the timbers into the top, then this huge blast of hot, humid air was just blasting out of there, all on its own before we hooked up the duct even.
Wow.
Very cool.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so we're hoping to go back a little farther. We'd like to keep going.
Okay.
We'll see how much. It's very expensive, as I may have mentioned before.
Yeah. So can you tell me a little bit about the Friends? Now, you guys offer tours, and with that, you are helping earn money to continue to work and support the Friends group, correct? And projects.
Absolutely. Yeah, that pays for stuff, and we're hoping that we currently have tours that are scheduled twice a month.
Okay.
And that's the third Wednesday and Saturday of the month. We just had one yesterday. Yesterday we actually had a group scheduled tour, and then followed that up with a field trip from some third graders from Truckee came down.
Oh, that's awesome.
It was awesome, and we do the field trips. We actually don't charge for the kids, and so they just pay. And then the chaperones, they have to pay the standard kind of group rate basically. But we also have private tours that you can book. You can rent the site. We had a huge barbecue here last week for the Nevada Builders Alliance.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, and they're a big supporter of ours as well. But there was about 350 people here. We had live music and barbecue from Carson City Barbecue. It was fantastic.
Nice.
And it's just a great site because I guess, I mean, it's not like you're in the middle of a big city being near Dayton, but the site itself, the way that it's set is very level. And you've got these buildings and the tunnel, and you can't really see any buildings or anything aside from the sky and the mountains all around. It's just beautiful, like the rest of northern Nevada. And so it's kind of like you're out in the wilderness when you're here. It's really cool.
Oh, that's amazing. So when do you guys, what is the range for when you guys do the tours? Kind of like spring through fall?
Yeah, our last tour of the year will be October 19th. But I think you could still do a private tour after that or a group visit. And
Okay.
I really like group visits just because it's kind of fun just to get. I've got a group of people coming in October from the Carson Valley photographers that have a little photo group, and they're going to come and take pictures, and that's going to be very cool. So,
Oh, that'd be really cool. Well,
yeah.
I know next year we want to try to schedule a tour for people to with the Historical Society with the Sutro Tunnel. So I think it'll be a lot of fun. So
It's a great place to come and visit just because of all the history and also the um, just the way that you can like this with some of the original buildings and the ore carts, and we've got these, the original ore carts kind of lined up. They were all strewn around the property, and the clampers kind of gathered them up and set them on some track here with this. And we have two electric mules, they call them, which are just electric powered carts that would pull the mine carts in and out of the tunnel. So those are pretty neat. Yes.
well, that's pretty cool. So you were showing different pictures. So how many buildings are left on site?
Currently, there are, there's four original buildings, and then there's the Victorian Rosa Mays house, the guest house, the machine shop and museum, and a little pump house, which are all not original to the site.
Okay.
But that's about how many buildings there are. And you can go inside the machine shop, you can go in all the buildings really, aside from the caretaker's house, because he lives there.
Okay. Well, and you said kind of the organizations look at when we were talking was kind of arrested decay.
Yeah, and there's some things that we'd like to fix, like we've got some broken windows that we're kind of building like replica of the style that would have probably been on the buildings. And what's nice is we've got a great photo record of what things did look like. But I think what's kind of fun about coming here is you see the arrested decay in the kind of the state of like not where things are falling down and destroyed, but just like when you go to any old ghost town or something like that, and it's just these old buildings that are still as they were and just kind of preserved like that. I think it's really great.
Well, I think so too, and you're helping preserve the history of this important site and what the vision was. And so, no, I think this is wonderful.
Yeah.
Um,
One thing I just want to throw in there is that one issue we're contending with is that people were living in a lot of these buildings over the years. And so yeah. And, there were people living in the machine shop. They were living in the carriage house. I think in the wood shop even. And so you've got, people installed windows to warm things up or put in stoves or did various improvements to the building, which aren't really, I wouldn't call it an improvement now. So there's been a lot of removal of shag carpeting from the warehouse and some other things.
so are you trying to kind of like remove that stuff so it's of a certain time period?
Yeah, that's the objective. So it doesn't look.
Okay.
Also, some of it's but it's also there's a point too where that's kind of historic in its own right,
Absolutely.
So it's
Yeah. Where's that balance kind of thing?
Yeah, have to talk to a historian and find out what when does something become a relic instead of garbage? How long does it have to lay there?
Yeah, at least they say it ranges, but 50 years or more, depending, but what does it mean and how does it help tell the bigger story, I think, and the evolution. So, but
Yeah.
I think you guys are doing great work. So, Neal, did you want to add something?
Well, I'm glad to see that we actually were able to pull a program out. Nathan is, he's a good man. He's sticking and I just can't thank you enough. Again, I think that we should have some kind of a copy that could be reused, the whole thing together where we didn't have problems, the technical problems that we had all through there, so that this can be replayed and get this history out. This is wonderful history.
Oh, it's fantastic. And then I think I'd be happy to get one of our historians like Pat Nealon, who does our tours. He's an incredible resource of knowledge. He knows so much about the history of the Sutro Tunnel. Unfortunately, I asked him as well. He couldn't come today, but he volunteers here for us, and we could really put together a better presentation, I think, with a little more time and better internet service.
Well,
Really
I think
justice to the
you did
history.
an excellent job when all of the stuff was working for you.
Well, I
Yeah.
really appreciate that. It's very kind of you to say.
Well, Nathan, this has been great, and I want to thank you for helping pull this off and actually being on site. He was like, "Oh no, we can do it. I know we can."
Yeah,
So
and it's funny that it's been working so well now, because in the beginning I was like, "There's no way this is going to work."
yeah, that was part of our technical issues. It was like for Nathan, he was like, "Oh, he's gone. Oh, he's frozen." So we weren't sure how well this was going to work, but we so appreciate it. So
Well, I appreciate it, and
is there any other things you want to mention, and then I will hand it
Well,
back to the library.
just that you can come on out here and check it out, and I encourage you to look at our website. There's a ton of information and history on the friendsofsutrotunnel.org, and I really want to thank everyone that's helped us out, like just over the years and recently, with like from the Builders Alliance and Simerson Construction specifically. And like, it's just great to see the local, the passionate people of the area that are so happy to help us out. And an interesting story. This is totally irrelevant to the local people, but I got a phone call while I was out of town this summer from a gentleman from France, and he had come here specifically because his great grandfather had been an engineer on the tunnel, and that Sutro had brought, had said, "Hey, I want you to come help me out with this project." They were great friends, and so he came out here and checked it out, and actually ended up kind of giving Spencer, who is very knowledgeable about the site, kind of a history lesson in reverse, from his perspective. It's very cool. It's like globally important and not just regionally. It's just cool. It's just fun to the people that want to come here and talk about it. It's very, very cool.
Well, Sutra's a big thing and very important within Germany and just the different things, going back to Germany and him reaching out to Europe and the communities to get support.
Yeah, and I think too, it's a nice kind of it's definitely the story of the connection between like San Francisco and the Comstock and Northern Nevada, like the relationship that kind of this back and forth that's still going on today, of people coming from there to here and going back. And also like how much we built the Cliff House, the Sutro Baths, all these great things that he did in San Francisco, which people probably know about that live there, but they have no idea about where the money came from to do all those things.
Oh, absolutely. And so many people, they made money, and then they moved back.
Yeah,
or
exactly.
moved to, and retired
Yeah.
in San Francisco and California. So
now it's the opposite. But yeah.
Well, this has been a great program, Nathan. We so appreciate it. And it was, you did a great job. So
well, thank you very much. I feel like I kind of flubbed it, but I did my best on the fly, and I wish I had more information to share with you. I mean, I probably do. I just, anyways, I really appreciate it. I hope to see all of you out here one of these days. See it for yourself.
Absolutely. It's, I've heard such wonderful things, and, quite a few volunteers that have, worked out there and have done research at the Historic Society for your friends group as well at the Historic Society. So,
and the volunteers are a great asset to us. We'd probably do nothing without volunteers. Like that's that's the backbone of this organization, is all the people who dedicate their time to help us out.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I think most organizations and, museums, I mean, we have staff, but there's not a lot of staff, and we rely on the generosity of volunteers to give their time and help us share history and preserve. So,
No, it's very cool. I love it. I love the volunteer spirit. I think it's really important.
yeah, I do too. Well, Nathan, thank you. And
Thank
thank
you.
everybody for joining us today. And it was an adventure, but we
Yeah.
learned a lot. And thank you for being
Yeah.
so diligent and trying to make this a fun presentation. And Teresa, we'll send it back to the Washoe County Libraries. And just as always, thank you so much. And we appreciate this ongoing partnership. So thank you.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. I'm sorry you had to see my pocket.
Well, I love this topic so much. I've actually checked out a biography about Sutro from the library years ago and read it, and I've been to the Cliff House and I've been to the bathhouses, and I just was very excited about this program. So thank you. You did a remarkable job. And the threat of technology failure in the beginning was so high, but what a success.
I feel just like Adolph Sutro right now.
We need to make a statue of you.
Hey, it's time. I've been waiting.
Well, thank you all for joining us, and a heartfelt thanks to Sherry Hayes Zorn with the Nevada Historical Society, historian Neal Cobb, and Tim, our library system tech wizard, for making this event possible. Have a wonderful day.
Bye,
Thank
everybody.
you very much. Bye.
Bye.